Thank you. Susanne Johnson.
My name is Susanne Johnson. My daughter attends school in the district, and I'm a taxpayer resident. In my public statement on November 5th and by email, I asked what happens in 2026 when the building project is complete and there's over $6 million to out of the middle school, high school assigned fund. Will that go to paying down the district debt, or will that be moved into capital reserves for more infrastructure spending? As usual, I only get partial responses by email or no response at all. So when I asked the business manager further about this after the next meeting, he told me that $6.1 million would be used as a lump sum payment for the project when it's completed, which would reduce the amount of money the district would have to borrow. However, as we see on the agenda tonight, I was exactly right in November when I asked if you were planning to move it to capital reserves. Maybe Ms. Johnson isn't full of this information. In 2023, you raised taxes 2.75% when you projected a budget deficit, when there was actually a $4.1 million budget surplus that you moved $2 million of into capital reserves. In 2024, you raised taxes 1% when you projected a budget deficit, but there was actually a $3.75 million budget surplus, surprise, surprise, and you moved almost all of that into capital reserves again. Now you're discussing moving, as I mentioned, that $6.1 million from the middle school, high school budget into capital reserves when the project is complete. Plus, there's $600,000 in a transportation assigned fund for new buses and vans, which you won't need because now you're talking about contracting out transportation services. Yet you still plan on raising taxes again this year. At least 1% for ACTI and looks like even more to hire a second security officer, which we don't need, and for other operational budget increases. It appears that there's going to be a budget deficit when you're creating a budget in order to justify raising taxes so that when there's a significant surplus, you can throw that into capital reserves to fund additional spending. If you stop loading capital reserves, that $6.7 million that we have left over for the middle school, high school building project and these new vehicles that we don't need to purchase, that should be more than enough funds to cover everything that we need this year, plus set aside money for our future obligations for ACTI without further increasing our tax burden. You added several central office FTEs last year. You proposed hiring a second officer this month, and you proposed, or last month, and you're proposing 1.5 additional FTEs tonight. One, fortunately, for a classroom teacher assistant, but also half of a FTE for administrative assistant. And you also talk about eliminating one FTE. I'm not sure whether that's in the classroom or not. When Superintendent Bigger was here, the goal was to achieve cost savings through the building consolidations by reducing FTEs. He projected a total of 7 FTEs in 23 and 24, and an additional 5 FTEs reductions in 25 and 26. But then Mr. Bigger left, and with our new superintendent and school board, FTEs are actually increasing, especially with district administration, the business office, and other administrative support, which seems counterintuitive when you have building consolidation and declining enrollment. Between the November 5th meeting and the November 11th work session, there was a dramatic shift in alignment of board members' views about the athletic fields project, which seems improbable without exchanging opinions outside these public meetings. Unfortunately, I think that's how things are done here, and you just got caught this time, despite the legal obligations and claims of transparency. Despite all that deliberation in the public meetings and outside public meetings, the administration brought the issue back on January 7th, and it's again on the agenda tonight, to increase the spending on that athletic fields project. Really? This board has continuously approved new spending measures, and then, with upcoming elections, you all feign surprise when faced with potential tax increases to cover the things I warned you about over and over. It is the school board's responsibility to hold the administration and each other accountable to improve student outcomes, improve fiscal responsibility, and increase transparency on the district, and you all have failed.